But the most important people here are you guys, the neighbors, the folks that live in Oak Hill. This is your all's battle. We're here to help you.
And Pflugerville.
But remember that what we're fighting for, besides the trees, is the identity of this place. This very special place. And please, please, get with your neighbors. Let your voices be heard. We'll have ways that you can do that. I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Okay. So get with the folks, talk it up. TxDOT is the big guys. They have the budget to get their voice out. The only way that we can fight that is if we have lots of voices to counteract that and getting those voices out. Let your council members know. Let TxDOT know. Let your elected officials know. Let the damn governor know that this is what has to happen. We have to have a redesign of this terrible boondoggle, this waste of money, this erasure of Oak Hill. Oak Hill does not deserve to be removed from the maps. It needs to have a big sign here that this is a special place.
The reason that this elevated freeway is called the Oak Hill Parkway is because from the very beginning, for decades, the community has asked for a grade level parkway. And what TxDOT did is they designed a toll road, which by its nature has to be almost twice the size of what is needed for the project, and then they just named it a parkway, okay? They have not changed the design one bit since they designed the original toll road, even though the legislature has forbidden them to spend money on toll roads. They're just doing it anyway. So this is a stealth toll road. And they have admitted themselves, TxDOT has admitted that when they complete construction of this project, congestion will be worse than it is now. And that is one of the messages that we need to get out to the community, that it is a lie that this is going to improve congestion. It is going to make it worse. The other thing that this is going to do, they suckered the poor fire chief out here into making a fool of himself by saying it was going to improve safety by improving travel times. It is not going to do that. It's going to do the exact opposite. And the other thing it's going to do, just like any of these projects, like I-35 is a perfect example. They are using the template of I-35, but on a much larger scale, is you are no longer going to be able to get across 290 or 71. So the community members are no longer going to be able to safely or quickly cross those two roads. Now, if there's a fire, like there was in Oak Hill not too many years ago, that means that your evacuation is going to be much more difficult actually than it even is now. And I encourage everyone to watch Fire in Paradise, which is available on Netflix or PBS, and see what happens when you have a problematic evacuation, okay? Because it's a very serious problem.
That's the place in California?
Yes, in Paradise. Yeah, Paradise, California. The other thing is, as we just saw in the news this morning, these elevated ramps that are an engineered bottleneck, so you go from a wide road to a skinny elevated ramp, they are a hazard. Everywhere they're put in, they're a hazard. Not only are they a hazard because traffic has to suddenly slow down and enter a bottleneck, but the elevation is a hazard, and cars and people fall off of them. And just like on I-35 and 183, when people sometimes have to get across the road, and it's a very dangerous deal when you build some sort of a project like this. And to top it all off, in addition to the gross expense, the unbelievable destruction, the excavation into the karst, it has a lifespan of a maximum of 40 years, this elevated design. And that is another thing we need to get out to the community. that this is a ridiculously short-lived design, building a decked freeway. They've already had to blast one out on I-35 that they built not too many years ago. And so if you have kids right now, when you're starting to have grandkids, they're going to have to come in here and redo this whole darn thing. It is the most ridiculous waste of resources and money, and the only people that it benefits is the contractors getting paid to make it. So you need to communicate to community members that it will increase congestion, not reduce it, and that it has a very short shelf life, much shorter shelf life than a grade level parkway. A grade level parkway with a rejiggered intersection would reduce congestion. It would be a fraction of the cost. It would take less than half of the time. It would preserve the community. It would create the ability for the community to continue to flow back and forth on either side of 290 and either side of 71. What this is going to do is this is going to amputate one half of the community from the other. It's actually going to divide the community into three distinct, separate communities that no longer interact with each other. So everything about it is just a disaster. And the final thing, the final real travesty of this is that if you travel on Texas roads, which I've done a lot of in the COVID years and actually over my whole life, Texas roads are an atrocity. They are in a terrible condition, the existing roads. If you drive up to the Panhandle, they still have those exit and entrance ramps that are two-way. So they're like a guaranteed head-on collision. Like head-on collisions happen there all the time. There are potholes that cause cars and trucks to crash and burn. You see big burn spots on the side of the highway all over Texas because of the terrible condition of our roads. And TxDOT is they're going to waste $1 billion on this. They like to call it 600 or 700 million, but by the end of it, it's $1 billion. And that money could go to fix the roads that we have and to increase safety on the roads that we have and save lives. Texas has an atrocious safety record on its roads, and more than 50% of fatal accidents do not involve drugs, alcohol, or speed. It is just a function of the terrible, terrible road design by TxDOT. So I could go on, but I want to thank you for being here. It makes the loss of the trees so much worse to me, which is bad enough. So a tree like that, it would take 12 generations of people to grow a tree like that. So you can't replace great-great-great-grandchildren are the ones who would maybe see a tree that large if we planted one today. So they're irreplaceable. And to do that while making congestion worse, throwing a bunch of money down a rat hole, and just destroying the community, it's an outrage. And I encourage you to write to Lloyd Doggett and to Pete Buttigieg and to the governor and emphasize to the governor the waste of money and the fact that they are getting around the prohibition on spending money on a toll road, because they're building a toll road with the intention of tolling it later on after the governor isn't in their way. So I want to thank you so much for being here and for all that you do, and keep it up. All right? Thank you.
It is so great to see you all out. When we started planning this event, we realized the weather was going to be dicey and well, maybe we would have 5. But look at this. I know everybody who came here on a Saturday morning, a rainy Saturday morning, does it because they love that grass and they love the trees. Hey, Clark Hancock, the guy who was just up here. I kind of knew the story of Oak Hill but his narrative and slideshow really alerted me to what has happened in these parts. This was a unique location because it is the only place where the trees and the river made it possible for pioneers and, yes, for Native Americans to travel between Austin, the beautiful point where the escarpment meets the lowlands, and the hill country. So we were always on the road. But we were here, this location was here on the road because of what it offered in natural resources. And now, and you know, some of you know, I've been fighting this thing since 2004. We've been telling TxDOT, yeah, we'd like to have room for the vehicles to go through, but you cannot do that at the expense of this beautiful natural treasure that is the oaks of Oak Hill. So that is the theme that we're using now. TxDOT, you know, just had a big celebration. They announced it on their website. They said an email blast around saying that they had their groundbreaking ceremony, I think it was July 3rd.
Yeah.
And it was more than a groundbreaking, it was a celebration. And they have all these big guys sitting there in a row and grinning. We are the ones who really want to celebrate because we are celebrating the life of these beautiful trees that have been here longer than any other living being in this corridor. 100, 150. One of them, up the road a bit, Grandmother Oak, I hope you've made her acquaintance, more than 300 years old. And we think it is nothing less than a tragedy to lose them. So help us recognize that, and we are not giving up to TxDOT, are we?
No!
There are several things that we can do. I think that's more in the purview of the Oak Hill Association of Neighborhood President, Cynthia Wilcox, to tell you about. But we are not giving up just because TxDOT announces that it's official. We are officially saying that we are here to defend Oaks of Oak Hill, starting with this beautiful